and welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones, and we are so glad to have you here. It is a new year, and with it, new priorities and issues to discuss. Coming up today, Trenton Mayor Reed Gusiora is going to be here to talk about the capital city. Crime is down, and investors are looking at some of the historic property. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. First up, we welcome State Senator Mike Testa to the show, so let's get to it. With the calendar turning to 2023, State Senator Mike Testa is one of many Republicans looking to advance their legislative agenda. Senator Testa joins me now to discuss that agenda and more. Senator, thank you so much for taking the time. It's good to see you.
It's great to see you. Happy belated New Year. It's great to be on the show.
Oh, same to you. Same to you. Well, let's talk a little bit about New Year 2023. What are some of your top legislative priorities as we are now in that new year?
So, I'll clump them together at first. I mean, really, I want to see some budget reform. Last year, we saw a $50.6 billion budget, the largest budget by far in the state of New Jersey's history. Also, what we're facing in the state of New Jersey that many people may not really know about, we have a judicial crisis in the fact that we have so many vacancies in the state judiciary that it's gotten national attention. I really want to do whatever I can to help fill the vacancies that exist, not only in my district, but in districts throughout the state. I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee. I also think we need to address the uptick in crime that we've experienced in the state of New Jersey. And I also really want to help our local breweries. That's been sort of a pet project of mine. They are small businesses that were really hurt during the COVID-19 era, and I think that they need and deserve all of the help that we can give them in the legislature.
Yeah. Well, let's start off with budget, right? Last year's was the biggest in state history, and that tends to be usually the headline of every budget. It's the largest one to date. Kind of comes with the territory. So, what do you see as possible areas of waste, mismanagement, areas where the governor might be getting it right?
Where we're getting it really wrong is I think that there's really a lack of transparency and a lack of accountability. I've introduced 3 separate bills concerning pork spending, what are known as Christmas tree spending. And, just Rutgers University alone is getting, $300 million in discretionary pork spending. I'm really hoping to open up the process, allow people to apply for that money, specifically, universities such as Stockton University and Rowan University in my neck of the woods here in South Jersey, just to make a more open, transparent, and more fair process. Additionally, I think, we can't continue to spend the way the state of New Jersey has been trending to spend in the COVID-19 era. It's time that the state of New Jersey learns how to tighten the belt. We can't rely on additional federal funding, and the number of $50.6 billion is actually deceptive because we got an additional $24 billion from the federal government. So in actuality, it's much closer to a $75 billion budget. And if you think about that, that's the budget of some small countries. We can't continue to have such a bloated budget. There are certainly many areas where we can cut some of the fat off of this budget. And I think that we really need to have the treasurer held accountable. I can tell you on the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee on which I sit, we weren't really able to ask her the necessary questions whether some of this discretionary spending is necessary. And I'm very hopeful that Chairman Sarlo and the other members of the Budget Committee are going to be much more open to holding Treasurer Moyo's feet to the fire and allowing us to ask the questions that need to be asked.
It's taxpayer dollars. How is it, if you're in the legislature and you're having difficulty getting answers, why? Why is that?
That's a really good question, and I think it's one that needs to be answered and addressed. And I'm confident that this year that business won't be as usual in the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee that it has been in the last few years. I mean, you look at what's just really happened in healthcare costs versus the state plan versus the private industry. Somehow the state plan was able to avoid that 7% increase that the private sector was facing each and every year. And then all of a sudden, we're faced with a crisis in the state that they're looking at approximately a 28% increase. Those are questions that the treasurer needs to answer, and they deserve to be asked. And the people of the state of New Jersey deserve to have those questions answered. We also need to know how so much of this discretionary money is being spent by the administration itself.
Yeah.
I think it's really long past due that the people of New Jersey, the 9 million taxpayers in the state of New Jersey, deserve answers.
And you mentioned the judicial crisis. We've talked about this on past shows, that there is a shortage of judges. And in New Jersey, we don't elect judges, they are appointed. So can you talk a little bit about your specific concerns and what you're seeing in your neck of the woods down in South Jersey?
Well, for people that know me personally, I'm a trial attorney by trade. So this is something that's very near and dear to me. In my family, we have 3 generations of my family who have sat on the Superior Court bench. So the bench is something that I hold in the highest regard. And I think of my grandfather always telling me that justice delayed is justice denied. And unfortunately, right now, due to the COVID crisis that we've faced, and courts weren't able to move cases nearly as quickly and swiftly as they really should have been able to, coupled with the fact that we have so many vacancies. And this isn't just on the governor's office. This is obviously, there's issues with senatorial courtesy. There's also issues with a number of senators and districts that have to agree because there's, more than one district, district per county. And look, I think that we all need to come together and put our heads together and get these appointments done, because justice delayed is justice denied. And I can say this, the state of New Jersey has always been looked at as one of the greatest states of having the best judiciary in the United States of America. We can't have this stain, currently on our judiciary of having so many vacancies. I used to be the trustee for Cumberland County for the State Bar Association. I was also the chair of the legislative committee. And I can tell you, I'm hearing from not only members of the State Bar Association, I'm hearing from local assignment judges. This is, in fact, a real crisis that many people in the state of New Jersey may not be aware of. And I'm glad to know that your show is addressing this issue. It's an issue that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed swiftly. And I'm confident that the Senate President, Senator Nicholas Scutari, is taking care of that. And I'm sure that's on his radar, as he is a trial attorney as well. We just need to put our heads together and make sure that we are operating moving forward to fill all of the vacancies that we possibly can.
Because a lot of times the judicial headlines have to do often with crime, but the reality of what's happening is the real crisis, is what I'm hearing, is really in the family courts, whether you're dealing with custody, divorce. These issues are really impacting negatively on young children and families.
It's absolutely atrocious what has been happening, and I'm hearing some of the horror stories from constituents as well as individuals that live outside of my district. In addition to that, you're having a lot of the civil trials are being delayed. So if someone has a personal injury claim, their case isn't being heard for now 3, 4, or even more years. And that just isn't right. As I said before, justice delayed is in fact justice denied. And certainly, we have all of the landlord-tenant crisis that was put on pause as well. So we need to have those judicial vacancies filled as soon as we possibly can. And I know that I'm working very hard with the governor's office, along with the Senate President, Senator Scutari, to make sure that at least the vacancies that exist in my district are filled.
Yeah, so everybody seems to be really stretched with their resources, and one of the other legislative priorities you were mentioning is how you're seeing an uptick in crime across the state, across the country. What's going on? Are police forces, county sheriff's office, are they not being supported the way they should be?
Well, I think anybody who's being intellectually honest would know that, over the past number of years, our police officers, sheriff's officers have sort of been painted in a negative light, that they can't be trusted and things of that nature. So morale is down in police departments. Communities have a distrust of police. And also our police officers have been somewhat handcuffed in the way they're able to handle juveniles, especially in our shore communities, on our boardwalks. I can tell you in my legislative district, that's been a very real issue that I've heard from police chiefs throughout my district, as well as our county sheriff in Cape May County, as well as our county prosecutor in Cape May County. Police officers are not really sure how to handle when they see a juvenile who is, consuming alcohol or smoking marijuana or some other, using marijuana in some other form when they confront them. I mean, there was a law written that really put the handcuffs on our law enforcement, and we need to take the handcuffs off of our law enforcement and allow them to do their job and administer justice in the most judicial way. So, I'm perplexed as to what the thought process was when, we're vilifying our police officers. I truly believe, look what's happened throughout our state. I believe even one of the governor's neighbors almost was carjacked and a car stolen out of their driveway. There's been an uptick because people realize that there is a soft on crime approach in the state of New Jersey, and we need to take a long, hard look at that approach. We also need to take a very long, hard look at what bail reform has done. There has been so many individuals who continue, to be released that commit more crimes while they're out because there's been, no cash bail in the state of New Jersey. That is a very real problem, and I think we need to address that in the legislature as well.
And we've had on some other prosecutors who are talking about that and the frustrations with bail reform is, it's that open door that the people who come through are right back out and they're doing it again because crime sadly pays and crime doesn't respect area codes. It doesn't stay in one area. There's no place that really is safe, without a doubt.
You're absolutely correct. And if you look at that pop-up party that we had in the city of Wildwood, which unfortunately resulted in a fatality, with an impromptu car show that just arrived en masse in the city of Wildwood. We cannot allow lawlessness. I mean, there's that social contract that is implied when you're a citizen of the United States and a citizen of the state of New Jersey that you're going to follow the law and you're going to respect the rule of law. We need to make sure that everybody understands that they have to respect the rule of law and that they have to follow the laws that are in place, and they can't imperil other people's lives. Otherwise, you're going to see lives lost needlessly, like you saw happen in the city of Wildwood, which is a very near and dear, part of my personal history. It was a city that offered me my first job and gave me my first paycheck. So we can't continue to allow that to happen, especially, in areas that are somewhat, densely populated in the summertime when, a lot of people are visiting the New Jersey shore.
Right. These issues, I can tell it's not just a job to you. It's personal. It's personal. And one other topic that I wanted to touch on before we let you go is one you said is impacting small businesses, some of our breweries in New Jersey. So can you talk a little bit about what's going on there?
Absolutely. I mean, the special rulings that were promulgated by the ABC in our state really put the handcuffs on our breweries and restricted them from being able to not only survive but thrive. They are manufacturers, and as I said before, I'm the proud co-chair of the Manufacturing Caucus for the state of New Jersey, which is both bipartisan and bicameral. And we have to help these manufacturers, to be proud of that. They're putting everything on the line. They're putting, investing their life savings sometimes in their business. And right before July 4th weekend of 2022 is when the ABC decided to enforce what I believe to be draconian measures against them. I have certainly a bill. I know Senator Greenstein has a separate bill. Senator Gopal has yet another bill that loosens the reins on our breweries to allow them to have far more events at their location. It doesn't require them to give an individual tour each time someone new comes into the brewery, and it allows them to have more off-site events. Why aren't we trying to promote the business rather than restrict the business? This is all about freedom, right? I mean, and liberty. And I truly believe that we need to understand what the needs of our businesses are, such as our breweries, to allow them to survive and thrive in the Garden State. And we need to give them the freedom to succeed in the confines of the state of New Jersey.
Right, because just dealing with ABC and trying to navigate the red tape, I feel like sometimes you need a degree just to navigate the bureaucracy, let alone run a business.
So what you just said, I've said this as an attorney, a brewery almost needs general counsel on hand at all times just to make sure that they are fully complying with all of the special rulings of the ABC. In my opinion, the ABC should be a better partner for these breweries rather than this enforcement arm that seems to be looking for ways to find violations from our breweries.
Senator Testa, you have got a full plate in the new year, and we thank you so much for taking the time and speaking so eloquently on all of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Mayor Reed Gusciora was recently sworn in for his second term in January, and Mayor Gusciora joins us now to talk a little bit about his plans for the capital city, the city of Trenton, the city that gave me my start in TV news. Mayor, it's good to see you.
Good to see you. It also gave my start as well.
Right. Well, when I was first starting out, I covered your campaign running for the assembly. And, it strikes me, Trenton makes the world takes. Everybody knows that bridge and the powerhouse that was Trenton many years ago. So let's talk about where we are now. And as we go into 2023, what's at the top of your agenda as you're beginning your second term?
We want to continue the progress of economic development, and a lot of that takes place with demolishing old and abandoned structures that can't be saved. We also want to save houses that we can save. But we have a block of Roebling buildings that were formerly manufacturing buildings that we'd like to give to developers to reinvent and re-envision Roebling Block 2. And that will be really important. I think that's a game changer for the capital city.
Well, there's so much history. There's so much history when you really look, and to see some of the structures that are still standing that might just be in disrepair, but they are worth saving.
Absolutely. We want to be prepared for America's 250 celebration in 2026. We've gotten state grants to help refurbish the old barracks and the battle monument. We want to bring Eagle Tavern back to life, which was first built in 1757, and open up the Douglas House where General Washington planned the Battle of Princeton, and make a historic trail so that we could take advantage of the historic tourism that we anticipate in 2026 that want to come to the crossroads of the Revolution.
Trenton, it was the turning point of the American Revolution. Again, all the history there. But if people don't feel safe, and that's a big issue, people don't feel safe in Trenton, especially after dark. So can you talk a little bit about what you're doing as far as public safety goes?
Yeah, we are shoring up our police department. We actually reduced homicides by 45% over the previous year. We have 2 street teams, which we learned from Newark's experience, that go out and try to change hearts and minds, and take down a lot of these abandoned buildings so that we can have more economic development. We have to give the younger generation hope, jobs, and a sense of purpose and investment into their hometown. So we want to do everything we can to create opportunities here for young entrepreneurs, but really fix up the city and get it ready for the 250 celebration.
Yeah. Well, what about those young people and the schools? There are a lot of private schools who come in and they recruit some of your really talented athletes away from Trenton and away from the education system, because there's a problem in the education system keeping teachers and keeping students safe as well. What can you say about what's happening there and how you're working with the local Board of Ed to enrich that educational fundamental start that so many kids, that all children need?
Well, it needs an investment into the education system, whether it's whether we have to create after-school programming so kids catch up. We do have a few charter schools that are a healthy competition with the public schools. We do celebrate the athletes that come out of Trenton High School. Jahir Brown is at Penn State. He was the MVP at the Rose Bowl. So we celebrate the successes. There are 2,200 students in the high school, and sure, there's some problems there. But the majority of the kids are great, and they go on to do great things. I just came back from a conference in DC and met up with one of my former students who's now a junior at George Washington. And she wanted to interview her hometown mayor, so I happened to be on hand for her to do that.
That's
but
fantastic.
we do want to encourage the kids that are doing well to make sure that they're successful. But we want them also to come back to the capital city. Once they've met success, we want them to come and reinvest in their hometown.
So you've got a milestone coming up, 2026, right? So you're getting ready for celebrating 250th anniversary. So, can you talk a little bit about what's going to be happening and how you want to kind of use that to springboard into more economic development?
Well, this will be a way to promote Trenton during the history of our country. So many important battles and events took place when George Washington crossed the Delaware into Mercer County. We want to link all those areas, the old barracks, the Battle Monument, the Douglas House, so that people can really be immersed in that revolutionary experience. And that's going to help create jobs here and keep our restaurants open. We're also investing in the downtown. We're going to do a makeover of South Warren Street so that it'll be more inviting, friendly, and have lights there so that people feel safe even at night.
Yeah, well, and state workers and the legislature, the state capitol is obviously in Trenton, and you are a former member of the legislature. Are you getting the resources you need from the state to help accomplish all of these goals?
It's never enough, but we do have a great Fighting 15th legislative district that does really work for us. We've gotten unprecedented cooperation from the Murphy administration. And they seem to want to bend over backwards to help the capital city just get ahead and find that revitalization that we're all striving for.
All right, and then so much has been done to renovate and restore the State House, which reminds me, 20 so years ago, you were behind the Dimes for the Dome when this dome 20 some years ago was in disrepair. And you were behind that effort even before you were mayor.
And they just gave it another makeover. So we expect that will encourage tourists as well, especially with the State Museum there. And we hope that students from all over the state want to come here and check out our capital city.
Right, they got the museum, there's the planetarium, you've got Trenton Thunder, the ballpark. There really is a lot, but the challenge is keeping people in the city and eating in the restaurants, not just coming for the one thing and leaving. Certainly a challenge.
Absolutely, but we have new restaurants cropping up all the time, and we're excited to link them as well and make sure that people have a real wonderful cuisine experience when they come into the capital city. We have plenty of restaurants. Vibrant Latino restaurants in Chambersburg, and even soul food on Front Street with the Smokehouse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They've got amazing food in the Burg, as they call it. Now, you recently voiced some support, when it comes to revenues, opening some more dispensaries in Trenton, 2% of revenue that comes from this. So can you talk a little bit about that portion? And are you getting any pushback on that, and why that revenue would be so important?
No, we're welcoming the cannabis industry. About 7 entities have applied for licensure in the capital city, and it means jobs and economic investment. And we hope that it is indeed part of our landscape, and we'll get 2% of the revenue, as you stated. So it will really help with our bottom line.
Yeah. How far along are you with that? Are you getting the support you need? How far away from that is that from being a reality?
One is ready to open when it finishes its licensure requirements. A couple of are operating on provisional licenses, and we hope that anyone is interested in checking out the capital city or want to base their economic fortunes here, we'd love to talk to them.
Yeah. And just final thoughts, as you take a look back on your first term, are there any takeaways, things, because now you have a second term, you get to do more. Any takeaways from the first term?
Well, it was a challenge working with this previous council. They seem to have been the council of no, and in spite of them, we still accomplished a lot of things. Really excited about the new council coming in. The one resounding theme is we all really need to work together to move the city forward.
Right. Yeah. Again, there's so much history, and there are a lot of issues. But when you drive by and you're able to look past that, there are some amazing homes, amazing history, amazing industry that once was there, and you're looking again to Trenton makes, the world takes.
Absolutely. We have great interest in our real estate, and we have even New Yorkers coming to look for their weekend getaway, actually come to Trenton for the architecture and the beautiful homes that they could refurbish.
The Mill Hill section in particular, I know a lot of people love that Mill Hill section, not too far from downtown, pretty close to the train station. They have home tours and really just the architecture. You can't build that anymore.
Yeah, and it's amazing value. People get the Princeton home for the Trenton price.
Right, right. But they also want to feel safe. And are they feeling safe?
They are, and we're making improvements all the time. We just need to change some minds. But again, out of 2,200 kids that are in the high school, the vast majority of them do the right thing and keep their head down and pay attention and graduate and go on to bigger and better things.
All right. Well, Mayor, we thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It's good seeing you, and I always enjoy coming to Trenton. Again, that's where I got my start, so I'm forever grateful, and I have a very soft spot in my heart for Trenton. And that will do it for today on New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you back here next time.